I'd like to take this moment to take a moment of silence in Luke's honor, please. Thank you. Next item is minutes of previous meetings. We have town council minutes for 9/9/2021. Would council like to proceed?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next is correspondence, main PERS options.
This letter requires, it's always been with the Public Employees Retirement System that you had one opportunity to sign up, and that was at your date, at your time of hire, and you either signed up for it or you signed off from it. And if you signed off, no more. You couldn't get in again. And they've now created an option for people who may have declined participation before to get in, but the way that they have to do it is that right now deductions are pre-tax for your retirement contributions, and if you choose to join again, your retirement deductions are post-tax, are taxed like part of your wages. In order for employees in the community to have that option, communities have to opt in, meaning sign up with Maine PERS that they will participate, and they have to do that by November 1st. And my question to the council is this something that you're interested in opening back up? It isn't something, it's been the way it is forever, which is you one shot, you make a decision, and that's the decision. Or do you want to open it up so that people, if they wanted to, could, who've been with the community, I think it's more than 5 years. There's a whole list of caveats here. But their deductions would be with after-tax dollars instead of before-tax dollars. So it costs more to join now than it would have otherwise.
Would there be a lot of interest that you know of?
I don't. I don't know. There's only a couple people who either chose not to join or joined and then cashed out. Didn't stick with it, that has happened to some, but we strongly urge people when they come to us to say yes, because it's a good program, and it's the only one that the town contributes to. There's some communities have more than one option. You could do Maine PERS, or you could do a 401, or Bucksport just does one. I don't think right now that we would have, I don't think there's a line of people waiting to sign up that haven't, that didn't initially.
Is there a downside for the town by doing this?
Oh, administratively, some people are treated differently. Some encoding these deductions. For those who signed up later, it would be a post-tax as opposed to a pre-tax deduction. It doesn't cost us more. It means that someone that isn't currently getting that benefit, that 7% that the town kicks in, would then get it. That would up that that budget. But
is it quite a process to do the sign up and the initial?
We have to amend our participation agreement with Maine PERS, which isn't, the council would need to vote to do it, and then there's an amendment process for that has to get approved by then, sent back to us, signed by, it's a process.
I'd make a suggestion that everybody has a chance to sign up when they come on. I don't believe that there's a large line waiting to go there. It's quite a cost. I mean, there's not a cost benefit to having tax-deferred money, obviously. I mean, this is not tax-deferred money to start with, so.
Yes, Lou?
Is there a requirement that the town make this decision now, or can they opt in 2 years from now if employees come and want to do that?
It has to be opted in by November 1st of 2021.
But employees can sign up the day they get hired.
Right, well, I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, we're not saying, this doesn't say that an employee can't join Maine PERS when they're hired, correct?
No. This
Right.
has nothing to do with our existing, the way we do it. This
Right.
provides an option for people who, I think it's, who've been, allows employees to have an annual open enrollment opportunity during their first 5 years of employment beginning in 2022. I
So
mean, if
anybody
we
that's
open this
Over
up,
5 years wouldn't be eligible anyway.
well, the over 5 years are the ones that can opt in
Now,
now, and anyone who's 5 years or less, there's an open enrollment every year. And the only thing that does to budgeting is make it hard to budget.
well, the other thing is that it's just, was it TIACREF or 401, whatever that is, there's also an open enrollment that they can contribute to that also, correct?
They can contribute to that, but we don't contribute
Right,
to that.
right.
The-
But the opportunity is there to still.
Oh, they can sign up to contribute to that for the 457 at any time that they want to. That's the employee's money. It's the town's contribution that is the budgetary one.
Sure.
As I said, that an annual open enrollment for people to get in who decided to make a decision when they started is another annual open enrollment like healthcare
Healthcare or
and
anything else.
all those other kind of things. But no, we don't have a line of people who didn't do it to start with.
Jim, did you have a question?
No, I guess you covered it pretty much.
That's the same as the state does, right? State police, state employees, you can't opt in after 10 years. It's right from the get-go.
But everybody, I mean, down at the academy.
Everyone who's
we've
part
got
of
this
a
too.
consolidated
Yeah.
plan has this
Has
option,
letter, yeah.
if the community chooses to do it.
Or organization or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is it, I guess a quick way would be just to send an email to department heads, just to ask around, see what numbers we'd be looking at.
But the problem is, the problem is that this is every year now. Because there's not an opt-out for us, so if we decide.
We're locked in.
We're locked in, and
Gotcha.
then, to Sue's point, then we're chasing that budget number. You know, all of a sudden, we may have a year where 6 employees who didn't sign up decide they want to sign up, and now we're locked into that budget number that's.
Yep, I understand.
We don't have that right now, but there's less incentive for people to sign up when they start if there's, every year they get to make that
Right.
choice instead of you get to make it once. And if you don't, then you didn't, but
But it does make it easier for, and again, I'm looking at it from the budgetary side.
Oh, I get it.
You know, we hire somebody, now we know what their benefits are going to be throughout.
Right.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I guess the question is, do you want me to pursue this
Right.
for an amendment to our plan or not?
I make a motion not to.
Second.
Anybody, would you say not to?
Not to.
Okay, how many people want to, can you second that, Jim? All those in favor of that motion? Anybody opposed to it? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 is ordinances to consider, introduce, and these are amendments. Sue and I had talked about this. These are What would you call these? Come on, if you wouldn't mind coming up real quick, please. I know there's not a lot of substantive changes here. It's,
No, and I didn't want to bog you down with entire copies of the ordinance
Yeah.
when only, so I just gave you just what would change. So the first one is the economic development. Rich asked for that. He'd be talking to you about it, but he's coaching tonight.
It's taking it from 10 to 11.
Correct. I think he talked to you about that in a subcommittee at some point. So that's what that one is. The remote participation, that one you guys discussed last meeting. The safe zones was one that David Winchester brought to Rich and my attention and asked. We had a meeting and he went over the definitions of safe zones, and there were some areas that qualify that we didn't have in the ordinance. So that was that one. And then the last one is the planning board. There's been months when the way it's written now, we're required to meet, and there's nothing on the agenda, and it just seems like a waste of everybody's time. So we talked about it as a planning board, and their feeling was we should, at a minimum, meet once a quarter, just to discuss whatever might be going on and give people a chance to come to us. But most of the time, if somebody needs to come to the planning board, they've already talked to me, and I put them on the agenda anyways. But that was what that was about.
all right. What I'd like to do is call these first readings, and then we'll bring it back to the next council.
For the public
For the
hearings
public
for
hearing.
these.
Yeah.
These are really housekeeping items. The remote participation
Oh,
policy
right.
lacked the definition for who was covered.
Yeah, it just
By
said, what did it say, board or?
It didn't define that it was any board
Yeah.
committee
So I just put a
Of the-
definition in for that.
for the town was covered by them.
Any questions on any of those from anybody? And like I said, we'll bring them back at our next meeting for second hearing and reading in public hearing, so. Thanks, Luke. 7 is discussion items, regulatory review. Mark?
Yeah, we met earlier and discussed some of the different alternatives brought forward for the ARPA funding. And in addition to that, we're going to give Sue some input on the social media policy by next Wednesday, so that can be on the next meeting as well.
Any questions? Next item is Bucksport Police Department Strategic Plan Review. Director Gagan is going to present that at our next meeting. Item C is American Legion funds needed for building repairs.
The American Legion has some significant building needs. Rich was trying to get them some grant funding through Home Depot and some other things, but excuse me, things such as windows, re-roofing a part of the building, that kind of thing and they don't have the financial means to do this. So the question is, if the American Legion Hall is something that the council would consider any kind of repairs to or grants for it's the windows are really large that really should be replaced. The part of one side of the roof has been done, the other hasn't. That needs to be done. The furnace is not operable, I don't believe, and they therefore the water is shut off because they can't keep it from freezing in the winter. Their membership is, like many organizations, is having trouble getting members that are able to do this, and the question is whether what they're hoping it doesn't come to is turning the building back to the state or whoever the owner is.
Where is the building we're talking about?
Right by the Lumen War.
Right below the superintendent's office.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Right on the connection street there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, right where Mechanic Street swings up.
Yeah.
So the American Legion owns that building, and how does that work?
I think it works something like the Grange worked, which even though the Legion has the use of it, that it might get turned back to the state organization. I would have to check on that for sure, but it's old, but it was moved to that location, which removes its historic register kind of ability to apply for money because it was relocated from its original location.
Do we have any numbers in terms of what the funds, what they need to repair that building or get it to?
To get it to minimal,
Mhm.
probably $40,000 or $50,000.
I think replacing half the roof, preserve the building.
I think that they're talking about putting plastic over the windows and stuff for the winter because it's not.
Do they still meet there?
Yes. Up until the weather gets so cold, we don't.
And because there's no heating.
Right.
Right.
The furnace was condemned, and we went down there with sledgehammers and cleaned it out.
I gotta ask, I mean, is the building even safe to meet in then? Yeah, that's not good, Frank.
I know, but it's an awful old building, like Sue said, it used to sit where the Masonic building is now. With the teams of oxen, they drag it up there where it is now, and we lost that historical value of it.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been able to do anything to it. I mean, our finances are very, very slim.
Sure.
Yeah. And of course, our membership has been dying off, and the young people aren't coming. But we've opened up the Legion to not just veterans now, but anybody that was in during peacetime, we'll say. It used to be just veterans that were in during, we'll say, the war years, but not now. Any member can join if they've just been in regular service and not wartime. So.
Where is the next closest Legion Hall?
Actually, I think Stockton, because some of our members go over there now.
Okay.
They're very active.
Hamden has an active
Hamden does.
region.
Stockton, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think to Paul's point, I think if we could see some more solid numbers on what we're talking and what it is, I think that would at least help guide us a little bit more to see where we're at.
I didn't know this was going to be in the meeting. I thought Richard would be here if he was. So
Yeah.
I commend him, yeah.
We've been talking because, as I said, Rich spent a lot of time trying to get Home Depot to do one of their projects at that building, and that didn't end up happening. So I know Rich has got some numbers, but I've got the sizes of the windows.
He did get the grant. He did get the grant, it's just that Home Depot wouldn't cover the labor, and they couldn't get anybody to install it.
That's right.
And then the grant ran out because it didn't get used. But he did get, the furnace was donated and all the supplies needed, they just couldn't get the labor.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, no, Rich worked his tail off on that.
Should we table it until we can get Rich?
I think we should wait for Rich and see if there's, because if there's a way to reinstitute that and all we had to do was
Ask.
find labor, then we could have,
Okay.
you know,
Frank,
that
how many members do you have?
How many?
Yep.
We'd be lucky to get 10.
Yep.
But lately it's been around 8, and that's just quorum enough to keep the membership.
What's kept in that building? Any?
What's kept in it?
I remember I think they gave a bunch of Boy Scout troops some old tents within the last, say, 5 years.
Really? I I didn't hear about that.
All right, or maybe they offered them. I can't remember. Don't quote me on any, but I know there was a conversation about it. I was just curious what else was in that building.
Not much.
Okay.
We have a big bulletin board, used to be in the old high school, that listed all the World War II veterans. They're gonna throw that away, we got that. A lot of names on there, I know, a lot of them.
All right, is everybody okay waiting? We'll get Rich here for the next meeting and
Yep.
see what we're at.
That's some numbers. Okay, thank you.
There was an item on discussion that we left off, and that was the Services Committee.
Yes, Services Committee appointed Larry Wall to the Cemetery Committee.
Thank you. That actually lasted almost as long as your meeting did. Item 8 is agenda items. Item A has been removed. Item B is resolved 2021-18 to approve replacement of garage door openers, sensors, and receivers on the police bays. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Everybody saw the proposals? Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9 is appointments. Reappoint Caitlin Howlett as tax assessor. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved. Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think we possibly, and Sue can answer this, might need a formal motion by the council to appoint Larry to the cemetery committee. I think the services is recommending you guys appoint them, and it's your role as the council to actually appoint them.
I'll do that.
Just to be technical.
I will, since we're in the appointments category here, thank you, Mr. Graham. You got Caitlin, right? All set with that? Okay.
Need to add an item.
Yes, I was trying to think of the words to say that. Jacob got me all confused. Take a motion to add an item not on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Have an appointment of Larry Lawrence Wall to the Cemetery Committee. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor? All set. Thank you. Motion passes. Item 10 is approval of quick claims. Discharges. We have heirs of Regine Craig, 889 Silver Lake Road, map 9, lot 42. Tax liens for 6/20/18 and 6/19/19. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Town manager report, item 11. 2 pages.
One's from Rich. The candidate forum will be held on Tuesday, October 19th at 7:15 p.m. at Brown Hall, adjacent to the Elm Street Congregational Church. It will be shared live via Facebook Live and will also be recorded for rebroadcast on the town website and our Facebook page. The forum is sponsored by the Enterprise and will be moderated by Dr. Stephen York. Rich gave us an update on the wall project, which is that the first 3 walls are complete with drainage, loam, and seed. The asphalt, the sidewalks, and road will be here for those 3 sites within the next 10 days, weather dependent. Work has begun on the Pine Street wall, and that wall should take roughly 2 to 3 weeks to build. The Bridge Street wall will take roughly 2 weeks once the Pine Street wall is complete. Asphalt will be completed on those 2 sites once the walls are done. The project is still under budget and is projected to remain under budget. The project is also ahead of schedule and, depending on the weather, should remain that way. The crew has worked extremely hard to keep traffic running smoothly and have worked well with the property owners. I have received a number of compliments from each of the property owners that I have personally spoken with in regards to the crew, the process, and the walls. It's been a very positive experience.
They look fantastic. I love the way
Yeah, it's exactly what we hoped for. COVID-related stuff. I have had several residents ask if we were going to go all remote meetings again due to the increase in COVID-19 cases due to the variants. My response has been that the council has thus far followed requirements issued by the state or federal government, which we are doing at this time. There are recommendations made by state and federal agencies related to this pandemic, but at this time there are no requirements related to maskings, meetings, etc. The purpose of having this item in this report is to see if the council wishes to make any changes in the way we are conducting business at this time. And in addition, I have had questions related to masking. Although masking and social distancing is currently recommended, there is no state or federal regulation that requires this. If the town were to decide to require it in public spaces, we would have to do some sort of ordinance locally. And I guess, what role do you want the town to have with this whole issue? Do we continue to follow state federal regulations, or do you wish to start acting on recommendations? I said, and I ask this because I get these questions, and we've been consistent throughout this pandemic that we have followed every requirement that there's been. And I just need to know that I'm still telling the truth, that we're still, that the council's, I need to sort of taking the temperature on where the council is on this. Do you want to go back to all remote meetings? Do you want to do work on ordinance? You know, I just am.
Is everybody okay with the way that we're doing things?
Yes.
Yes.
As long as we're not breaking any
Should we create the ordinance just to have in case we need it?
If we're following regulations of the CDC and we're following what they're asking us to do, we're doing what we're supposed to do.
So if it becomes, if the state mandates it, then it won't matter.
That's
Okay.
because
And that's what happened
we
last time, right?
operated under last time, was state regulation, emergency proclamation. And the other thing that's not on here that is in the wind, shall we say, is the requirement for vaccination or testing for any employer with more than 100 employees. And the $64,000 question is what counts as an employee, and the proposed rule that's put out doesn't answer a lot of questions in regard to that item, what qualifies, but it also doesn't answer questions related to record keeping and what's required if you, who might be eligible to do testing instead. I've written to both Senators King and Collins' office with my list of questions about how this would work and who would pay for testing and what the record keeping would look like, and both have written back and said nobody knows the answers to these questions yet. I also spoke with our attorney, whose firm is sort of tracking this for their clients, and the attorney that I spoke with said this is a proposed rule, and my recommendation is that you do nothing until there's a final rule that addresses the things that you're looking at. Some communities have already chosen to start implementation of this proposed rule the way it's written right now, and it may not look the same at the end as it does yet. So unless you tell me different, I'm not going to take action on or propose that we take any action on that until there's a final rule and we understand what that rule is in order to know if we even are going to be under the qualifications of this.
Everybody okay on that?
Yep.
Everyone? Okay. I don't want to be heading down a road that you didn't want me to go down, so I thought I would ask before I waited. It has come to my attention that a lease signed by Town Manager Michael Brennan in July of 2012 included provisions for the town to pay not only the lease payment itself for the senior center, but also propane and electric charges for the kitchen at the center. These items were supposed to have been changed over into the name of the town in 2012, but were not. The town has never received a bill from the owners of the apartment complex where the center is located. And it was not until we were contacted by the current management company of the facility that this matter came to light last week. They've provided a bill for what they say are the outstanding amounts, which is substantial, in the amount of $65,000. I have asked for copies of the bills and reached out to our attorney. The company representative that I spoke with indicated that they wanted to work with the town on a solution to this, and I will be talking to her again next week once I have all the bills and an opportunity to review them, as well as to discuss this further with our legal counsel as to our responsibility here. Waiting nearly 10 years to send any bills is a bit excessive. And there is a statute of limitations at 6 years. So some of this is...
Was there a lease? Have you seen a lease?
There is a lease signed by Michael Brennan on July 3rd of 2012. What I have been unable to find is council approval of that.
And does it, in that lease, though, does it state that we will pay for the propane and all of that stuff too?
It does. It says we will pay for propane and electricity for the kitchen. It says that they will change over the accounts into the name of the town. That never occurred. There are no names in the...
And there's no record of that coming before the council either, huh?
No.
Okay.
And so what I'm looking for is the lease before this lease. It's been... The first lease that I've been able to find was signed and was approved by the council in 1990, and I don't have the lease. I have the approval for a lease, which was for 1 year. And so I'm reading old council minutes to try and find successive approvals to where I can find the lease that was prior to this lease, to see if that included this provision or not.
Do you ever remember reading one of those, Kathy, in your research when you were putting all those minutes in there? Okay.
Is power and propane, are they metered separately from the rest of the facility?
The only thing the building uses propane for is
Kitchen.
the kitchen.
Okay.
And the senior center director, I asked him to look, and there is the power panel that is in the kitchen, has the kitchen, the dining room, the hall, that end of the, it's like that was an addition to that for that purpose, and that sort of covers that area, but
That doesn't mean it's a separate meter. That doesn't mean it's a separate meter, it's a
No,
separate panel.
that's correct. So there's it's been a few days. I've been doing a lot of reading, and they've sent me a lot of bills, which, had we been doing it, we wouldn't have paid tax on any of that propane, and we would have bid out the same way we did electricity and everything else at a rate that we didn't have the opportunity to do. So, as I said, it's a conversation right now with them. Some management firm that reviewed their commercial leases discovered that and said,
Hey, look.
yeah, wow. Yeah, big number.
So the new management is asking for $65,000?
Mhm.
How long
Well,
have they
it's
been-
the same
How much
manage-
has the new management actually paid of the $65,000?
Well, this Stanford management isn't the owner. They manage this for the owners of the property.
No, they don't.
Their 2012 is when this was. I don't know what changed in 2012 that because my concern is if the old lease didn't say that the town paid those things, and the new lease says that they do, and a council didn't approve it, there's issues.
That's, yeah.
That the obligation of additional resources on the part of the town by someone like me without coming to you, if it was the same lease, same language, and there was a thing that says roll it over, that's completely different than, but the fact that nothing was in the name of the town before this to pay those bills makes me, it's not really that funny.
No, I was just saying, that's why you're here and he's not anymore.
Well, I guess I didn't, I've operated this with the senior center the same way everybody has, you know, the way Derek did, the way.
Sure.
And nobody's ever sent a bill until now. And I only make you aware of this because there's some low-hanging fruit here that we legally, there's a 6-year statute.
Well, and I guess the other thing is, going forward, you know, is there something that we need to sign to get this straight?
Well, if I
too?
can't find at least that a council ever approved authorizing expenditures of this money, then yes, you'll have to
Yeah.
do an amendment to the lease that says approved by.
And put bids out for propane.
Shouldn't they have a copy of that lease signed by the council?
No, it was signed by the manager.
Well, I mean, shouldn't they have one signed by the council?
The manager is who you authorize to sign all your documents. When you guys approve it, my signature as your manager, but what backs it up is the vote that was taken in order to do it.
Right, but is your question, does the management company have a copy of that lease that Michael
Michael
Brennan
signed?
signed? Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Oh.
But they don't have the one previous?
They haven't, they're trying to go back far enough to find me all the bills that I've asked for, you say it was 2012 then? I need them back to 2012, even though we wouldn't legally be liable for them except for 2015 on, if that.
Was the number seriously 65,000 that round?
No.
Okay, all right, I was gonna say, that's just a...
Well, I've looked at propane bills going back to 2016, and there were several $1,000s that were repairs to things, that there's nothing contractually required to do repairs, and there's...
More to come.
More to come. I just didn't want you to hear on the street that we owed $65,000, and I forgot to tell you that it was for a contract that you...
None of us were here.
None of
us were here.
Well, even those that were here weren't here, because I don't see where anybody...
Nobody raised their hand.
Yeah.
And nobody raised their hand. And my concern about that is, and the reason I need to find the first one is, or the one I found, you know, it was voted, but there was nothing in it about paying utilities, and that was in 1919. Clearly, I don't think anybody was, because if they had been, they would have been in our name. The utilities would have been in our name ahead of time. And so that's, if I find the lease and it's exactly like the current lease, I'll feel better than I would have if
Yeah.
it was a change and nobody voted for it, and we've been...
Okay. I did just get a text from Rich about the Legion Hall. He said that a lot of that didn't get done because of COVID, so he's going to check with them and look to try to reinstate that program. So we'll see where that stands. David, we already took care of your item, so you're good to go if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, anything on the town manager's report?
No, I guess that was it.
All right. Next is public hearings or approval of permits. We have a couple. The first is Central Maine Power, new service installation, the intersection of Duck Cove and Mast Hill Road. How does council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. So next is from Goulsport, updated application for additional items. I know there was some things on there that folks had questions on. Luke was one, I think. Did you have questions on some of this stuff? About staying on the waterfront, or?
The two conditions put on it by public safety and fire, public safeties, there's no camping on the waterfront.
Right.
No tents, no
Correct.
campers.
No nothing, right? Correct.
So Terry was supposed to talk to them about, and tell them that they weren't allowed to park their fifth wheel down there.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to set a precedent. They wanted to park it down there so they could be near their
Stuff.
games and stuff, and I get that, but we didn't want to set a precedent that camping was allowed,
Yeah.
because then come festival, every vendor is going to want to
Sure.
camp next to their booth. So she had said that she was going to tell them that, and she anticipated that he was going to not come if that was the case, and if that was the case, she wasn't going to need to amend the application at all, because we were just going to go back to what it was before.
Okay, because she'd asked me about parking the trucks at
Yeah,
Maine
that-
Maritime property.
That's not needed anymore.
Okay.
That was for when rides were going to come, and that's been scrapped.
Oh, so there's no rides coming anyway? Okay. So,
So the rides were completely out, then she was trying to get, he was going to bring carnival games and food stuff, and I,
but the way that our folks have said that can happen, then maybe she's not even
it
gonna
could
ask.
happen if they agree to park their fifth wheel up at Elm Street, because that's
Okay.
the only parking lot in town where we allow camping.
Right. But that doesn't have anything to do with these amendments then.
I don't know what you have in front of you, but I think the only change from the previous application to this application is if he was going to bring carnival games, and not rides, but games and food trucks and stuff, and they were going to close off the town dock parking lot and put them there. I don't think that was in the original application. So, and she plans to have vendors, just like, not, last time she talked to us, which was just 2 days ago, there was no food or anything like that, just vendors selling crafts and stuff between the hotel and the town dock, similar to what they've done in the past for the festival.
Okay, so this amendment here says that she was asked by the vendor who's bringing in large carnival rides and activities.
Yeah,
Those aren't coming.
no,
So the first thing that was there was like to set up on the 22nd around 2:30. That's probably out because there's no rides. The second was they wanted to sleep where their rides and games are. That's out. They wanted to know where they could store their big trucks. That's out.
Don't need them now, right?
It was asked who would inspect the carnival rides. That's out.
Correct.
And the last one was like to include the use of the marina parking lot in case of overflow of the rides and games.
That's out, but we do want to close off the Marina Drive there just for safety, because
going
we
down,
expect a
bring
lot of
the
kids.
kids down there,
Yeah, we expect a lot of kids to be walking on the
And I don't
waterfront.
think the public safety director will have an issue with that anyway.
Dave was on board with that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, do you have something?
Want to make it clear that I'm not against this by any means. Any festival, I think, that brings people in is a great thing. But somebody did approach me, and I've been thinking of this the whole time as like a ghost sport, non-profit ghost sport. And it's not. When people, Bangor, the concert series, any brewer, any city that has a private event for profit, they don't get free security and free fire. And they have to pay for that. So do we want to set an ordinance for the future that, not an ordinance,
Well, yeah, that is something that we've been discussing with for our waterfront ordinance that we've been, I don't know if we've really worked, have you worked on it much? A little bit? We had a meeting and talked about some of those types of things and stuff with public safety and about how we would charge and what was fair. And Sean was quite adamant that he didn't feel like the money was the big thing. It was more just having time to plan staffing and that kind of thing. And I kept pushing, honestly, because not that I'm trying, but I don't feel like you said, that it's the town's responsibility to pay for security or EMTs and stuff, just like at waterfront concerts. Those guys are all getting $50 an hour to be there in case they're needed.
if we get a big event in Holly 6, 7 officers in and EMS staff,
Right.
that adds up fast. That's a lot of money.
So, I mean, that's something we can talk about going forward, because she is planning on doing the Bay Festival again. But I'll also say, you know, I got a call from the newspaper, and he asked me that question about the for-profit. And honestly, her last event was the black tie event, and she donated $1,000 to the animal shelter. I don't know if she kept anything. And this one, I don't think she's going to make anywhere near minimum wage.
No,
I mean, she's, you know, and I know that, like, the festival made money and they were nonprofit, but she, you know, the chamber director drew a salary and all that. So, I mean, it's really not, I know she's for profit, but it's not like she's out to get rich off this.
No, I'm not saying I'm against it at all.
I know you're not.
We gotta bring it up, because it's a
Absolutely.
big event. This,
Absolutely, and she's trying to help the town and bring money, business in, and do these things, and she's not making a lot of money, but that doesn't mean the next person isn't. You know, what if Smokey's Greatest Shows comes down and decides they want to have
it could
a
lead to
fair on the waterfront? You know,
it could lead to
Yeah.
any business in
Sure,
town saying
sure,
one
sure.
event is my business.
and that's why we're trying to make up rules for the waterfront. And again, you know, I've said it many, many times, it's not that we want to restrict use of the waterfront or anything like that. It's just for things just like that. How do we pay for, if we're going to have security, if it's needed? And what's the level that where it's needed? You know, is it 300 people? Is it 1,000 people? At what point do we need to say, okay, you need to charge, you know? And then sometimes you don't know. Like the Santa Maria being here, nobody knew that that was going to be thousands of people. We thought it was going to be maybe a couple hundred, and it was like a couple hundred an hour. It was nuts. So they ended up having Sean and Rich down there doing parking duty, and because there was no officers available. So there's a lot of things. It's a bunny trail that we have to work on. We're not going to solve it tonight.
Thanks. Any other questions, Julie?
Not sure if I helped.
Oh, you did. Actually,
you did.
I mean, to me, this amendment doesn't even need to be looked at because none of those things are applying. So, thank you, Luke.
Yes.
All right. Next is discussion items on the agenda for the council and the public. Public have anything? Mr. Cole, do you have anything tonight? No. Yeah, you're the only public in here, so I figured I'd ask.
I was supposedly on the agenda last week according to the internet, but I wasn't, so.
Okay.
Not here for anything now, though.
All right. Council have anything? All right. Committee scheduling, I know we're pushing regulatory review with
For the
social media, right?
I mean, it seems like we're done with regulatory review for the most part for the rest of it, right? So will that go to just the general counsel, the ARPA funding?
Yeah, well, no, we're gonna send out a survey, but that's not gonna be back.
Right, we won't have that back by the next meeting, so.
That you were gonna get some more information on numbers, but that can coincide with when you get the surveys back.
And if everybody does their homework and sends in what they have, and Sue gives us something, my guess is we could probably do that at 6 and have plenty of time for that one there, so. Okay. I don't think there's any others we need to have or anything, so.
So are we doing the social media?
Social media next,
At 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we will have 2 public hearings also for the.
The 4 of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, 4, right.
And the
14.
The police department strategic plan review will be on.
Right, yep. Okay. All right, next item is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you.